Welcome back to AM Agenda. With me now, our panel, the Shadow Parliamentary Secretary for Disability, Senator Mitch Fifield, and Labor MP, Member for Isaacs, Mark Dreyfus. Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning, Kieran.
Senator Fifield, first to you. What do you make of the poll? Tony Abbott's up in the preferred Prime Minister rating. He's certainly trying to ease the expectation, though, isn't he, at the moment?
Well, I think you've got to give credit to Tony. He's certainly put us in a competitive position. I think Tony's plain speaking has stood us in good stead. But we're still behind in the polls. We're still very much the underdogs, and there's a hard road to hoe. So we certainly don't want to be getting ahead of ourselves. First-term governments very seldom lose office, so you'd still have to put your money on the government at this stage. But we are in a competitive position, and there's an expectation on us, quite rightly, to lay out our future plan, and we're going to be doing that.
Mark Dreyfus, you heard what Martin O'Shannessy had to say. He says this, what Mitch pointed to, is 100% right. Things are very competitive at the moment. I don't think you need any scoop on that. The primary vote's only 35% for Labor.
Well, it looks like Mitch and I are in agreement that this is going to be a close election. We've always said it's going to be a close election, Kieran, and it's because we've been taking the tough decisions, building a stronger economy, doing the national broadband network, paid parental leave, keeping the economy out of recession, and when you are taking the tough decisions, you lose a bit of skin. So it's going to be tough.
You don't think it's anything beyond that, the backflips, the broken promises?
I don't. I think that this is going to be a tough election, Kieran.
So the emissions trading scheme isn't playing out in your seat of Isaacs, that people don't think that you should have acted on what the Prime Minister said is a great moral challenge?
What people talk to me about mostly is the economy over and over again, and there's an appreciation that Kevin Rudd took the tough decisions to keep Australia out of recession. There's an appreciation in my electorate, Kieran, of where we are on the unemployment rate at 5.2%, because people are aware of what's happening overseas, where in other countries the recession is biting much more deeply.
Mitch Fifield, you saw the Penrith by-election in Sydney. There's a couple of federal seats, of course, Lindsay, Macquarie and the Blue Mountains, marginal seats, effectively. What do you think of that result? And does it reflect, in your view, any federal issues, any federal personalities?
Well, I think the voters of Penrith were massively focused on the shortcomings of the New South Wales Labor government and their manifest incompetence. They were very keenly aware of that. We had a terrific candidate in Stuart Ayres, and Barry Farrell put his heart and soul into that campaign. But when you're looking at a swing of 25-26%, you have to start asking yourself if perhaps there's a bit of a toxic edge to the Labor brand as a whole. Now, you don't want to extrapolate too much from a state by-election, but I think there is a message there for federal Labor as well, and that is that the public are very aware of Labor and the issue of competence.
And they've showed, Mark Dreyfus, that they're willing to vote Liberal federally as well, and over a long period in that area. The western suburbs of Sydney, Lindsay, had Jackie Kelly as their local member for almost a decade. It looks, if Mitch is right, that the brand is off out there.
I think voters across Australia make a distinction between state and federal issues. What we've got in Penrith is a by-election on the back of the resignation of a sitting member, and I think people well understand the differences between the Rudd government and the New South Wales state government. They know that they've got a very, very strong local member in David Bradbury, with a very long association, including having been Mayor of Penrith, and they can make that distinction.
Therese Rain and the Prime Minister were on 60 Minutes last night. I want to play you a little bit of what Therese Rain had to say in support of her husband. Let's hear it.
Well, I've known him for nearly 35 years, and I can tell you that what drives Kevin Rudd is compassion, that he cares deeply about people, and that's what motivates, I'm going to get emotional, that's what motivates him, and that's what he cares about. He cares about the future of the country, he cares about people who are doing it tough, and that's what drives him, and that's who he is.
Therese Rain on 60 Minutes last night alongside her husband. Maybe he should be using her a bit more. She comes across as very authentic.
And what she said doesn't surprise me in the least, Kieran. Kevin Rudd, like other Labor leaders before him, like the rest of us in the Labor Party, cares about working families, cares about people doing a tough ride across Australia.
But the contrast between her and the Prime Minister last night, she was so authentic and it was very believable. The Prime Minister, he looked stressed and under the pump, as he has been lately.
I'm pleased to see her at her husband's side and saying the things that she did say.
Mitch, any thoughts on it?
Well, it'd be truly shocking and stunning if Therese Rain didn't say that she thought her husband was compassionate. I don't think that that's a stunning revelation. Sure, the Prime Minister, I have no doubt, would like to do good things for the country. The problem is he's no good at it. He's a dud when it comes to being a Prime Minister. He's a lousy leader. He's a lousy administrator. Everything he touches has turned to muck. It's well and good to have great intentions, but if you can't do the follow-through, you're not doing your job.
Mark Dreyfus, I'll let you respond, but I want to move on if I can.
Well, I will respond by saying Mitch has apparently forgotten the work that this government did starting in October 2008 to keep this country out of recession. And that is the most important thing we would point to. And Mitch knows very well that Australia's present economic position compares more than favourably to every other developed country.
But aren't you undermining that economic argument now with your fight with the mining industry? You're undermining the economic debate and your credentials. The Treasury yesterday accusing elements of the mining industry of strong-arm tactics. Is that any way to sort of engender confidence in industry?
The mining industry is running a ferocious scare campaign. This resource super profits tax is part of the economic reform and tax reform that this government is engaged in. Negotiations are continuing, Kieran.
And there was a positive deal business-wise yesterday, the Telstra deal. Telstra signing up to the government's NBN Co. And that's good for certainty for those for that industry, isn't it?
Well, there's no certainty. This is a risky deal. The alternatives haven't been tested. The feasibility study didn't look at alternatives. The government is acting as though they've actually delivered something. Well, they haven't actually delivered any new connections under NBN Co. And this deal is far from done. Telstra themselves said yesterday that there's still a lot of work to do and there's no guarantee that this deal will ultimately be signed up. There's a long way to go, and it's typical of this government who think, well, let's have a press conference, let's be flanked by a few people and we've actually achieved something by doing that. We don't think they have. We think it's a bad plan and we'd scrap it.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. We'll continue the debate, no doubt, over the next couple of weeks. Mitch Fifield, Mark Dreyfus, appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thanks.
And that's all for AM Agenda. We'll have lunchtime agenda at 12:30. David Spears will be here at 4:15 with PM Agenda. I'm Kieran Gilbert. Thank you for your company.